How does a man labeled a homeless drifter end up owning the very sky his family looks up to? My relatives thought they were hosting the event of the season until my jet touched down on their grass. Stay tuned to see how I turned their ultimate betrayal into my greatest victory. The autumn wind carried the scent of aged oak and expensive perfume across the Whitaker family estate in the rolling hills of Connecticut. It was grandfather's 85th birthday celebration 2 years ago, and the entire clan had gathered in the grand ballroom of the sprawling stone manor. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead while waitstaff in crisp uniforms circulated with trays of vintage champagne. I, Elias Whitaker, arrived quietly with only a weathered leather backpack slung over one shoulder, still carrying the faint scent of Thai street food and European train cars from my latest journey. The moment I stepped into the room, the energy shifted, conversations dipped. Eyes flicked toward me with that familiar mix of pity and amusement. My cousin Marcus, already the self-appointed golden boy with his perfectly tailored navy blazer and gleaming Rolex, raised his glass and called out loud enough for everyone to hear, "Well, well, if it isn't our resident drifter, Elias, still wandering the world with nothing but a backpack? When are you going to stop playing adventurer and join the real world, cousin? Some of us have actual legacies to protect." Laughter rippled through the family like a wave. Aunt Lydia, dripping in diamonds, placed a condescending hand on my arm. "Sweetheart, we all worry about you. Marcus is closing 7-figure deals left and right and about to marry into old Swiss banking money. What do you have to show for all this drifting?" My parents avoided my gaze, shifting uncomfortably in their seats, as if my choices were a public embarrassment to the Whitaker name that had stood for generations of lawyers, bankers, and real estate moguls. I smiled thinly, said little, and left early that night. That was the last time I saw most of them before the wedding invitation arrived. The invitation itself was almost insulting in its elegance. Thick cream cardstock with gold embossing, delivered via courier to my sparse apartment in Boston. "We hope you can join us for Marcus and Sophia's special day at the family estate, even if it's just for the afternoon. Family is family, after all." It reeked of pity. They expected me to show up disheveled, maybe via Greyhound bus or budget airline, standing awkwardly in the back row as the cautionary tale of what happens when you reject the family path. Have you ever been written off by the people who should have believed in you the most? Drop a comment below and tell me your story. I read every single one. What they didn't know was that those drifting years were the foundation of something massive. While they pictured me sleeping in hostels and wasting time, I was executing in silence. My backpack wasn't for souvenirs. It was my mobile command center. From a tiny rented room in Lisbon, I coded late into the night on an AI logistics platform that revolutionized supply chain optimization for major shipping companies. The exit from that first startup alone gave me 8 figures. I reinvested every penny quietly into aviation tech, fractional jet platforms, and strategic land deals around underutilized airfields. There were brutal nights of doubt. In a rainy Berlin co-working space, staring at spreadsheets until 4 a.m., I remembered Marcus's mocking laugh. It became fuel. I flew economy to investor meetings, wore the same hoodie for days, and built relationships with pilots, engineers, and venture capitalists who saw potential where my family saw failure. By the time Marcus's wedding date approached, I had quietly acquired a controlling interest in a fleet of Gulfstream jets and secured rights to several private grass strips in New England through shell companies. The empire was invisible, but it was unstoppable. Those years taught me patience. I stayed off social media. I avoided family group chats. Every insult became another late-night deal call. Every eye roll pushed me to close one more funding round. The black sheep had learned to run with wolves instead. If this story of silent grinding is hitting home, smash that like button right now and subscribe for more underdog victories that prove patience beats privilege every single time. The morning of the wedding arrived with picture-perfect weather over the Connecticut countryside. White tents dotted the vast lawn like sails on a green sea. A string quartet rehearsed near the flower-adorned altar while luxury cars, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and vintage Rolls-Royces lined the long driveway. Marcus was marrying Sophia, heiress to centuries of European wealth, in what the family called the event of the season. Meanwhile, at 30,000 feet over the Atlantic, I sat in the plush leather seat of my Gulfstream G650ER, tail number N777EW. The twin Rolls-Royce engines hummed with quiet power. My hand-picked crew, 2 former Air Force pilots, prepared for descent. In the cabin, I performed my private ritual. I shed the faded gray hoodie and worn jeans I had deliberately worn when boarding in Teterboro. In their place went a custom midnight Navy Tom Ford suit that fit like armor, a crisp white shirt, and a subtle Patek Philippe watch. No flashy jewelry, just presence. As the jet began its descent, memories flooded back. The cold family dinners where my travel stories were dismissed as aimless. The holidays I spent alone in foreign cities while they toasted Marcus's latest promotion. The quiet pain of being labeled the failure. But today that pain had direction. What's one moment when someone underestimated you so badly it became your greatest motivation? Tell me in the comments, I want to hear your comeback stories. The estate appeared below us. The grand manor house, the sea of perfectly dressed guests, the altar where vows were about to be exchanged. My team had arranged discreet permissions for the private grass strip weeks earlier. This wasn't chaos. This was precision. The ceremony reached its emotional peak. The officiant asked Marcus if he took Sophia to be his wife. His lips formed the words "I do," when the sky answered first. The deafening roar of twin engines shattered the perfect afternoon. My Gulfstream made a low, deliberate pass over the estate, circling once like a bird of prey before aligning with the grass strip. Napkins flew, chairs scraped, every head snapped upward. The sound was overwhelming, raw power interrupting their carefully scripted perfection. The jet touched down smoothly on the manicured grass just beyond the tents, rolling to a commanding stop less than 200 yards from the altar. The air stair lowered gracefully. I stepped out into the sunlight, suit immaculate, sunglasses shielding my eyes, the sleek Gulfstream gleaming behind me like a silver throne. The silence that followed was absolute. Guests who once pitied me now gaped openly. Aunt Lydia's champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers and shattered on the stone patio. My parents stood frozen, caught between shock and something that almost looked like pride. Marcus's face went through a rapid transformation. First irritation at the interruption, then confusion, and finally cold realization as his eyes locked on the tail number and then on me. The cousin he had mocked for years had just landed in the middle of his perfect day. I walked across the lawn with deliberate, unhurried steps. The grass crunched softly under my shoes. The drifter had arrived, not begging for acceptance, but commanding the sky they only admired from below. If you're loving this moment of pure poetic justice, hit like right now and subscribe so you never miss these epic redemption stories. The family scrambled to regain composure. Security moved forward uncertainly until my father raised a hand, suddenly remembering the bonds of blood when money and power were involved. Marcus stood rigid at the altar, his bride Sophia whispering urgently beside him, her flawless makeup unable to hide her stunned expression. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. "Is that Elias? The backpack guy? That's his jet." During the reception under the main tent, I accepted a glass of the same rare cognac they had once ridiculed me for not appreciating. Conversations died when I approached. Old relatives who had ignored my calls for years now suddenly wanted to catch up. Marcus avoided me for as long as possible, but eventually we stood face to face near the bar. "You've planned this?" he asked, voice tight. I smiled calmly. "I didn't plan to interrupt your vows, Marcus. I simply chose to arrive on my own terms, the same terms you laughed at for years." The tension was thick, but I didn't gloat. That wasn't the victory. The victory was in their eyes finally seeing the truth. Later, when toasts began, they reluctantly invited me to speak. I kept it elegant and brief, my voice carrying clearly across the tent filled with the elite they so desperately wanted to impress. "True freedom," I said, "isn't measured in zip codes, trust funds, or even the most extravagant wedding. It lives in the ability to move forward when others try to hold you back. To build empires in silence while the world calls you lost. To arrive exactly when and how you choose. The horizon doesn't belong to those who stay grounded in tradition. It belongs to those brave enough to take flight." The applause started awkwardly, then built into something genuine from those who understood real resilience. Marcus couldn't meet my eyes. The black sheep had become the one who commanded the skies. As the sun began to set in a blaze of orange and gold over the Connecticut hills, I made my exit. No lingering goodbyes. No need to stay for their validation. The Gulfstream's engine spooled up once more, and I climbed the stairs, leaving the estate and its small dramas shrinking beneath me as we lifted off. From the window, I watched the manor become a tiny speck. Their world was beautiful but limited. Mine stretched across oceans and continents. Years of cold shoulders, mocking laughter, and lonely hotel rooms had led to this single unforgettable moment. They could keep their perfectly manicured lawns. I had claimed the entire sky. Wow, what a journey, right? Have you ever dreamed of making a statement like this to people who doubted you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If Elias's story inspired you even a little, like this video, subscribe for weekly comeback stories that prove the quiet grind always wins in the end, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Your own horizon is waiting, go claim it.